Joey, my name is Kinsey and I'm with the Nocturnal. We are definitely going to get into this Listerine business, but can I tell you my Joey Lawrence story?
Sure.
Okay. It was 1993. I was at the age where I was trying to figure out whether Santa Claus was real or not. So
Oh
I
man.
had, in my head I was doing all of these tests, and the
Yeah.
ultimate test was, can I get this Joey Lawrence CD that came out in February of that year? I had no CD player, nothing. And so my test was, if I get a CD player and Joey Lawrence's CD, then Santa Claus is real. And I have some really good news for you.
Come
Santa
on.
Claus is real.
Yeah, he is.
Every time I think of you, I associate it with this magic of seeing that CD on Christmas morning and just the joy like that it brings me
That
to relive that.
that means so much to me. Number one, that means so much to me because that's just extremely flattering. But number two, I love Christmas, right? So Christmas is like I am obsessed with Christmas. I still to this day, my mother does not talk to me about Santa Claus. Okay. So I hung on to Santa Claus. I don't know how old I was, but I was obsessed. And Santa Claus is real. And I don't talk about it with my girls. I'm like, hey, listen, guys, you got to listen to Santa. They're almost 18 and 14, you know? So, and then obviously my year and a half old doesn't really know, just getting to learn about him. But I literally said, this is the real deal here. And if you don't believe, the magic's not going to work. And so that means so much to me because I love Santa Claus and I love Christmas. And that is one of the best stories I've actually heard. I love it.
Oh, that is so sweet. That
Truly,
makes me happy.
truly. Yeah.
Well, I really enjoyed an episode I listened to recently of your podcast. You had Donnie Wahlberg on,
Yeah.
and you were hilarious. I was like comfortable interviewing you because you fangirl as hard as I'm going to fangirl today
Ah,
over
that's
Donnie Wahlberg, and you talked a lot about his relationship with his brother, and good vibrations, amazing. But
yeah.
I was with Mark not too long ago, and Mark said that he told us all, like, I used to hate being called Marky Mark. I really struggled with that because I had evolved into something else, and now I totally embrace it and I love it. You've been in the business for so long. Was there ever a part where you resented being so successful so early on, and seeing and just that evolution of trying to grow up and trying to have a different brand?
Yeah, look, I mean, there was moments where it's tough, you have all the success as a young person. And I had it, I've had it in sort of three phases. It was like when I was a little kid, it was like the little kid with the bowl cut on like, Give Me a Break in the 80s. And it was very iconic and everything. And then you had this whole teen idol thing with the long hair and the Blossom Days and the whoa. And, that catchphrase becoming so iconic to this day, even people everywhere I go still say that, which is cool. I always was very thankful and grateful because of the level of success that it attributed, and honestly, being able to do that at the level that I did and being able to still do it 40 something years later, is really cool. It's really rare. And I know that, and I'm very lucky. It did for a while, and it still does even to this day where, you have to break through that barrier because you do something at that level and then they don't think you can do anything else, or because you're a kid, they attribute that to you being that guy,
Mhm.
and rather than playing that, and I often say it that when they developed Friends, NBC wanted a 25-year-old Joey Russo, right? Which is why they did Joey Tribbiani. I mean, that's why that happened, and believe it or not, Matt LeBlanc, I remember he came over to the Blossom set several times, early on, because Friends came a few years after Blossom, and watched how I played Joey Russo. Because when you're playing this dumb character who's super crazed about girls, and you say these things, that are, that could be, taken as somewhat offensive if you're, oh my gosh, she's so hot and all these things. If you say it with innocence, right? If you're
Yeah.
innocent about your love of women, then you can get away with a lot more, where so you're not lecherous. And that was something that I just instinctively did with Joey Russo. And they wanted that, even though it was a 25-year-old version of that, right? And that was pretty cool. However, those guys, you're winning Emmys and Golden Globes, and because they were 25. Well, at 15, when I was doing it, it was just who I was, right? So you don't get any credit for that. And then
Right.
obviously there's a stigma and you got to break through that. And I've had to work very hard, throughout the years to break through and get these opportunities and do these things like Hawaii 5-0 and CSI New York and these things that are very much what I can do that are also in my wheelhouse. But, when you're well known for something as a kid, it's, yeah, there is a stigma there. So breaking through that has been hard. It's been challenging. I like challenges. So I take it as like, okay, all right, let's go. Let's go. I'm ready to do it. And I feel like, I got a lot of stuff left in the tank that I have not yet been able to do. I'm excited about those opportunities coming now that I'm in my 40s.
Well, yeah, and you did do that. You did see that challenge, and it has been fun to watch your evolution. And as somebody that has loved you since you were a younger man, it's so much fun to watch you in these different roles and to see you take on these different characters.
I appreciate it.
Because you're right, like we fall in love with you when we're younger and when you're younger, and then you turn on the TV as an adult and you're paying your rent and you're like, oh, it's John. So it's so much fun to see you.
Crazy.
How
Crazy.
much has the podcast opened up new opportunities for you? Because you really just, I mean, this podcast blew up. Oh, it feels like it blew up overnight. And it really feels like it was a no-brainer, the chemistry you have with your brothers.
Yeah, it was something. We did it coming out of COVID because we didn't know what was going to happen. Honestly, everyone thought the world was ending, right? So we were like, we got to do something. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
So we started this podcast. We really did it just to do something together because nobody was doing anything. Our whole business was shut down for almost 2 years, right? So, and it's just taken on a life of its own. To your point, the community that supports the pod is incredible. I mean, to see it kind of rise to where it's risen, top 50 and of all the pods. I mean, it's really amazing, and we did it all ourselves, and it's just, no one had ever seen us actually relate to each other without scripts, right? So you think how we relate, and it's similar at times, but we actually relate differently than anyone would ever think, and I think that's really been interesting. And we throw it all out there, and we're brutally honest, and there are no filters, and we don't put what you see is what you get. How we are on that pod is exactly how we are with each other in real life. And I think that's really been kind of, really refreshing for a lot of people to see. And it's in this new world, with new world media and all this stuff, it's opened up so many things. We're working on a scripted series, together, which is close, and we're very excited about that because that'll be sort of full circle. We haven't done that together in 20 years, So, we're doing these movies. We sold this movie to Fox called Heart Attack, this big action thing. And Andy's going to direct it, and Matt and Andy and I are all going to produce it. I'm going to be in it. It's like this Die Hard in a hospital thing. It's really cool. We did that Mistletoe Mix-Up Christmas movie together, which we sold to Amazon, and it ended up, we did it in-house, again, very small, sold it to Amazon. It ended up being their #1 Christmas movie, no joke, in 2021. Yeah. And then we were like, wow, so now we're making the sequel, but we're actually taking some time to do it because we realized, like, wait a minute, we were just making that one kind of for fun. And it comes out this Christmas. Very exciting. And this pod has been fueling so many of these opportunities. And expanding our audience to young people. Like, people are tuning in that only know us from the pod, which is really wild. We'll be out and people will be like, hey, I love you. You're that podcaster. I swear to God, I was at the market the other day, and this dude who was checking me out was like, you're that podcaster guy. Yeah. It's such a weird, like, yeah, I am. That's me now. So it feels pretty weird and cool all at the same time.
Well, talk to me about how, I mean, this Listerine it seems like something that probably evolved from your podcast popularity. How did you partner with Listerine?
Yeah, it's really cool. Listerine, obviously it's weird because I've used Listerine like my whole life, right? I've had sensitive teeth. I had irritated gums and red gums, and I literally would look at sugar and I'd get a cavity. It was nothing to do, with my mouth. It was just my teeth. Some people have very porous teeth, right? So I became obsessed with, like, oral healthcare and brushing every time after you eat and flossing, and Listerine was what I used because that was what my dentist said was like the benchmark of oral hygiene, because they do it right. It's developed with dentists, and they're just the ones. Like, you have all these other ones that are froofy and their colors, but this one is like the one that works. So it was in every medicine cabinet that I had growing up. I've used it for my girls. And then when they came to me and was like, hey, listen, we got this new clinical solutions, gum care line. It's amazing. And it actually really works with gingivitis and can specifically target your red and irritated gums. I think I talked about it on the pod or something. So everything comes full circle. And then, it's weird. No joke. They sent it to me. And this is true. The first time that I used it, because they said, everybody says like, oh, in a week, it'll cure everything. And you're like, okay. But truly, a week later, like my gums were infinitely better. And I literally remember the first time I used it, I looked at and I was like, whoa, and I literally said that word, but I said it like real life. No joke. And I was telling them this. So when they come to me and they were like, really? So you truly felt like the whoa, thing. And I was like, yes, I did. They're like, we got to do something with this. And I was like, well, let's do it. So that's how this all came about. And I'm happy to be partnered with them. It makes perfect sense to me because when you use it, you feel the whoa, so that's how it works.
So a cute and organic story, not, and it's interesting because now celebrities really do have, we do look to you for those sort of like organic stories to really determine what products we can purchase that'll make us feel better about ourselves. So
it works. It works and it feels right. I really try to not do those things that don't feel right, or that aren't organic to me, because otherwise just you're out there selling something. This stuff really works. Like I said, I had used this brand for years. Crazy story. One of the original doctors that developed Listerine over 100 years ago, Joseph Lawrence. No joke. Yes, they told me that. I was like, are we related? What is this? I mean, and I literally said, if the guy's a genius, then we're definitely related.
Definitely.
But isn't that wild? I mean, Joseph Lawrence, of course, Dr. Joseph Lawrence helped develop Listerine. Of course he did.
This is an ancestry show.
I know. We got to do DNA. We got to do it. We got to figure it out.
I love that. All right, I have a bit of a offbeat question for you. I also cover royals, and you are all about brotherly love. Do you have any advice for Prince William and Prince Harry?
Man, I mean, look, at the end of the day, you can choose your friends, you can't choose your family, right? So, and blood is thicker than water. Look, I don't know what's real or what's not in terms of the tension that's between these guys. I know everybody goes their own way. Even Donnie on the pod, Donnie Wahlberg was talking about him and Mark and the journey that they've had, and how he didn't invite him to his wedding, or he invited him to his wedding, he didn't come to his wedding, and people were like, oh, he hates you. But you know what? So I don't know what's real and what's fallacy, but all I can say is that you only get one brother. At the end of the day, like, no matter what happens, like, your brother's going to be there for you,
Yeah.
So to me, God gives you those siblings, and those are relationships that you need to nourish and water. And all relationships take work. Every single one. The grass grows where you water it, and you can't take even family for granted. Just because you're related by blood, those relationships still take work. Matt and Andy and I constantly work on our relationship. If you saw our Just Us Bros text chain, okay, you would see so many times in there. And guys, I apologize for the way I reacted. Guys, I know I need to get better with that. You know what? My bad today. Shouldn't have happened. Sorry for the disrespect. And we're all taking turns saying that, but we are constantly watering our relationship with each other, which is why all these years later, we are still each other's best pals, and we got each other's backs, and we can still work together. We did it as kids, and we're doing it as grown men, and it's because we work at it, So any advice I would have to those guys is, guys, like, come on, you guys are brothers. Like, put your crap aside. You got to work on things. Work through it. You can work through it with a friend, work through it with a spouse, a significant other. You got to work through it with your siblings too. That would be my advice.
Joey, it has been such a pleasure to get to talk to you. My childhood dream come true, and I can't help it. It still has some of the best lyrics in the world. Do you ever think about that? Do you ever think about that?
Well, I really appreciate it. You're making me blush over here, but I truly appreciate it. It means a lot. You do this so long, and I love some of the stuff. I like it. I'm always a pretty tough critic of myself. So, it's always like you look at things like, oh, come on, Joe. But, it makes me feel good when people like what you do, because I do it for that reason. I do love it, but if nobody else loves it, then I'm not gonna be able to do it. So, it doesn't work. So anyway.
Well, congratulations on all your success. You're such a sweet human, and I'm so grateful that I got to talk to you today.
I feel the good vibes coming through the camera. So feeling is mutual. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
Get it. See you.